I saw the $250,000 transaction vanish from my father's trust fund, and the forged signature was my mother's. Worse, the hidden camera I planted captured who forced her to sign my stepfather. The night I confronted him, my ribs cracked under his boots, but iCloud had already uploaded everything. The next morning, I sent a single email to the prosecutor. Subject: I can prove it. This is how I lured an abuser into his own legal trap and drove the final nail with data. My name is Riley Hart, and I grew up in Old Brooklyn, one of Cleveland's quieter neighborhoods where the houses lean slightly toward Lake Erie like they're listening for something. My father taught me to patch skateboard decks in our garage, his hands steady as he showed me how to sand the splintered wood smooth. My mother, Ellen, would read to me on the front porch, her voice carrying across the narrow yards where neighbors still knew each other's names. That life ended when I was 14. Dad died in an industrial accident at the port. A crane cable snapped, and the load it carried didn't care who stood beneath. The company settled quickly, establishing a trust fund that would sustain me until I turned 30. Mom never talked about the amount, but I knew it was substantial enough that she could keep working part-time at the library, keep our house, keep some version of normal. For years, it was just us. Mom dated occasionally. Men who brought flowers and left after a few months when they realized she wasn't ready. I went to college at Cleveland State, studied finance, learned to read balance sheets like maps of human intention. Got a job at Harborline Community Bank as a fraud analyst, spotting the patterns people leave when they try to hide money's true path. Derek Cole arrived 5 years ago. He fixed our burst pipe for free, said he was new to the neighborhood, just trying to build his contractor business. Within 6 months, he'd replaced our roof, renovated the bathroom, and convinced Mom that mixing business with pleasure wasn't always bad. "Let me handle the paperwork," he'd say, kissing her forehead. "You've dealt with enough." I should have seen it then, the way he isolated her finances from her daily life, the way he made dependence feel like care. Last Tuesday, I was reviewing suspicious transaction reports at work when I decided to check on Dad's trust fund. Professional habit. Maybe. Or just that prickle you get when something feels off. The account showed a massive withdrawal request, $250,000, authorized by a new power of attorney document. The signature read, Ellen Hart. But I knew my mother's handwriting like I knew her voice, the way her capital E curved. How she never quite closed the loop on her lowercase a. This signature was wrong. Close. Practiced, but wrong. I pulled up the document metadata. Electronic notarization timestamp 11:43 p.m. on a Thursday. Mom was always asleep by 10. The notary seal belonged to Cole Contracting LLC. My fingers trembled as I clicked through to the business registry. Cole Contracting LLC registered 3 weeks ago. No listed employees, no commercial address beyond a P.O. box. The authorized signatory, Derek Cole. I stared at the screen until the numbers blurred. $250,000. Dad's money, meant for my future. Sliding toward Derek's shadow company through a signature my mother never made. The PDF showed one more detail that made my stomach turn. E-Notary Cole Contracting LLC. Derek had notarized his own forgery. The address listed for Cole Contracting LLC led me to a rental garage in Slavic Village, squeezed between a defunct auto shop and a liquor store. No signage, no work trucks, just a metal door with peeling paint. I photographed everything: the empty mailbox, the rusted padlock, the absence of any legitimate business. When I confronted Mom that evening, she was making dinner, Derek's favorite pot roast filling the kitchen with false comfort. "Mom, did you sign papers for the trust fund?" Her hand paused over the cutting board. "Yes, sweetie. Derek said it was for tax purposes." "When?" "Last week, I think." But her eyes shifted left, the tell she'd had since I was young, when she'd claimed the cookies disappeared on their own. At 11:43 at night, the knife clattered against the counter. I must have forgotten the exact time. I moved closer, saw the fading yellow-green on her wrist where a bracelet would hide it. "Mom, did he hurt you?" "Don't be dramatic, Riley." She pulled her sleeve down. "I bruise easily. You know that." At the bank the next day, I ran a device fingerprint on the e-signature session. The IP address matched Derek's phone. I recognized it from when he'd used our Wi-Fi. The browser string, the screen resolution, even the time zone settings screamed Derek Cole, not Ellen Hart. I called Maya Torres, my friend from college who'd become a network engineer. "I need a favor," I said. "Can you pull logs from a router without alerting the owner?" "Technically, yes. Legally gray area. Why?" "My mom's in trouble." That night, while Derek watched TV and Mom pretended to read, Maya helped me remotely access their router. The logs showed Derek's phone creating a Bluetooth connection to Mom's tablet at 11:38 p.m. on the night in question. 5 minutes later, the e-signature was submitted. "He used her device," Maya said through my earpiece. "Paired his phone to control it remotely. The next phase required closer surveillance." I bought a button camera, the kind that looked like part of a shirt, and planted it in the decorative orchid Mom kept in the kitchen corner. The angle covered the breakfast table where Derek did his paperwork. I also slipped an AirTag into Derek's document bag when I visited for Sunday dinner. "Just helping clear the table," I said when he looked up suspiciously. For 3 days. Nothing. Then Thursday at 7:15 p.m., the camera captured gold. Derek spread papers across the table. "Practice it again," he said to Mom. "The E needs to match." "Derek, I don't understand why." "Because I said so." His voice dropped, that tone that made Mom shrink. "Your signature's been getting sloppy. Banks notice these things." She picked up the pen, hand trembling. On the practice sheet, I could see her writing E-H over and over, Derek's hand occasionally covering hers, guiding, forcing. "Again," he said. "Make it look more natural." The camera caught 23 minutes of signature practice, Derek's voice growing sharper with each attempt. "One more time, make it match," he said, holding up what looked like an old document, probably something Mom had legitimately signed before. At minute 24, Mom set down the pen. "I'm tired." Derek's hand shot out, gripped her wrist, the same wrist with the bruises. "We're done when I say we're done." She signed 6 more times before he was satisfied. The money trail was almost elegant in its deception. $250,000 left the trust fund and hit Cole Contracting LLC's account at 9:07 a.m. on a Monday. By noon, it had fragmented into smaller transfers, 10,000 here, 15,000 there, always staying under reporting thresholds. Derek had learned the system's blind spots. At Harborline, I pulled the transaction histories during my lunch break, using my fraud detection credentials. The pattern was textbook structuring $9,500 cash withdrawals, spaced across different branches, different days. Never quite 10,000, never quite triggering a currency transaction report. The AirTag data showed Derek's movement between banks, KeyBank on Detroit Avenue at 9:30 a.m., PNC in Lakewood at 11:15, Chase in Rocky River after lunch, each stop perfectly timed, each withdrawal just under the federal limit. I compiled everything into a folder: the forged signatures, the practice session video, the device logs, the structural transactions. Then I walked into Cleveland PD's Financial Crimes Unit. Detective Jonah Pike looked like a man who'd seen every scam since credit was invented. Gray at the temples, coffee stains on his desk blotter, a whiteboard behind him covered in fraud schemes. He flipped through my evidence, occasionally grunting. "This is solid," he said finally, "but we need more for the prosecutor to bite. The forgery's clear, the structuring's obvious, but juries want drama. They want to hear the threat, see the fear. He hurt her. I have the bruises on camera. Old bruises don't talk. I need voices, admissions, something that shows criminal intent in real time." Pike leaned back. "Can you get him talking?" "What if I could get him to admit it? Then we'd have a case that sings." I filed a suspicious activity report that afternoon, flagging every transaction from Cole Contracting. The bank's compliance team initiated an account freeze within hours. Derek wouldn't be able to move any more money. but he still had what he'd already withdrawn in cash. That evening, I texted Derek, "Need to discuss Mom's documents. My apartment tomorrow, 8 p.m. Bring receipts for the trust withdrawal for tax records." He responded within minutes. "What's this about IRS questions? I can handle it, but need documentation." "Your mother already knows everything." "She doesn't understand the tax implications. You want an audit." Three dots appeared and disappeared several times before his final message, "Fine, 8 p.m. I prepared my apartment like a crime scene in reverse. Hidden microphone under the coffee table, phone set to backup record, my laptop configured to stream audio directly to cloud storage. Maya helped me set up a backtap function. 3 taps on my phone would trigger emergency recording and SOS. "You sure about this?" Maya asked, testing the mic levels. "He's not violent with me," I said. "Just Mom." People change when cornered. She was right, but I needed his voice admitting to the theft. Pike had been clear without Derek's own words. The case would drag for months, maybe years. I also placed Derek's favorite beer in the fridge, the expensive craft kind he pretended to afford. Men talk more when they drink, especially men who think they've already won. The trap was set. All I needed was for Derek to walk into it. My phone buzzed at 6:45 p.m. "Coming early. Have something to show you." I checked the cloud storage, all systems recording. The AirTag showed him already in his truck, heading east on Detroit. In his wallet, according to the last ping from when I'd brushed past him at dinner, he was carrying something thick. Cash, probably, or receipts. Either way. Evidence. Derek arrived at 7:20 p.m., bourbon already on his breath. The live upload was running, every word streaming directly to my secured cloud. My phone sat casually on the kitchen counter. Backtap, ready for emergency recording. "You look nervous," he said, settling into my couch like he owned it. His wallet bulged in his back pocket. I could see receipt edges poking out. "Just want to handle this properly. The trust fund withdrawal, I need to document everything for the IRS." "Nothing to document. Your mother authorized it." At 11:43 at night, his eyes narrowed. "She has insomnia sometimes. Strange how her tablet connected to your phone right before the signature." The shift was instant. Derek stood, his 6'2" frame suddenly filling my small living room. "You've been snooping." "I'm a fraud analyst. It's literally my job." "Your job," he stepped closer, "is to mind your own business. $250,000 of my father's money is my business." The first shove sent me backward into the wall. "Your father's dead. That money's been sitting there for years while your mother struggled. I earned it keeping her afloat. By forging her signature." The backhand came fast, snapping my head sideways. The copper taste of blood filled my mouth. "She signed it. Maybe I helped guide her hand, but she signed." I triggered the back tap. 3 quick pulses against my spine as I reached for my phone. Derek grabbed my wrist, twisted until I dropped it. "You think you're smart." He pushed me down, his boot connecting with my ribs. The crack was audible, even over my gasping. "I've been planning this for 2 years. Every receipt, every deposit timed perfectly." Another kick. I curled inward, protecting my organs, but the microphone under the table was still recording. "The money," I gasped. "You structured the withdrawals." 9,500 each time. Never hit the reporting limit. He actually laughed. 53 withdrawals over 6 weeks. Your mother never even checked the statements." His boot came down on my side again. Through the pain, I forced out words. "You isolated her finances." "I protected her from stress. Do you know what I've dealt with your mother crying about your father, clinging to his ghost?" He knelt down, hand around my throat. "I took that money because you owe me for putting up with her grief, her weakness, and you're going to stay quiet about it." The pressure on my windpipe increased. Spots danced in my vision, but I could hear Mrs. Patterson next door pounding on the wall. "Shut up in there," she yelled. Derek released me, stood. "File a report, And I'll tell everyone your mother's been stealing from that library for years. I've got receipts for rare books she sold. Forged those too. But who's going to believe her? He pulled out his wallet, and several withdrawal receipts fell onto my carpet. KeyBank, PNC, Chase, all for $9,500, all dated within the last month. Keep these, he said, not noticing they'd fallen. Frame them if you want? The door slammed behind him. I lay on the floor, ribs screaming, but forced myself to photograph the receipts before the pain made me pass out. The upload confirmation appeared: audio file saved, video saved, photos saved. I managed to text Maya, call 911. The EMTs arrived at 8:45 p.m. 2 cracked ribs, bruised trachea, mild concussion. As they loaded me into the ambulance, I checked my phone. Everything had uploaded 43 minutes of audio. Derek's full confession, the threats, the admission of forgery and structuring. The receipts. I told the EMT, "Don't let anyone touch the receipts on my floor." The Cuyahoga County Prosecutor's Office occupied a gray building that seemed designed to drain hope from anyone who entered. But Assistant District Attorney Lena Porter's office was different. Photos of successful prosecutions lined her walls like trophies. Aggravated theft, forgery, structured money laundering, and felonious assault, she said, reviewing my evidence. The audio is devastating, his voice admitting to everything, clear as day. Detective Pike sat beside me, having already filed criminal charges. The restraining order had been issued that morning. Derek couldn't come within 500 feet of me or Mom. "We've frozen all identified accounts," Porter continued. "But he's withdrawn significant cash. Any idea where he's keeping it?" "No, but he's arrogant. He'll surface." Porter pulled up Derek's financial history. Multiple fraud allegations over the years, never prosecuted. He's smart about staying just under the radar. She looked at me. Until he met someone who speaks his language. Mom arrived at 2:30 p.m., looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. When Porter played the audio of Derek's confession, Mom's hands started shaking at the part where he called her weak. "I need to tell you something," Mom said quietly. "He made me practice signatures for weeks. Said it was to update insurance forms, that my handwriting had gotten shaky." Her voice cracked. "I knew something was wrong when he brought documents at night, when I was on Ambien." "Did he threaten you?" Porter asked gently. "Not with words. He'd squeeze my wrist when I hesitated, block doorways when I tried to leave rooms, control the car keys." Mom pulled up her sleeve, showing a pattern of finger-shaped bruises. "Financial abuse doesn't leave the same marks." Porter documented everything, photographed the bruises. "This establishes a pattern of coercive control, but we need to recover the cash he's withdrawn." That evening, my phone buzzed. Unknown number, but I recognized Derek's burner phone pattern. "Meeting tomorrow, Riverside Warehouse. You want your cut, bring nobody." Porter smiled when I showed her. "He's attempting witness tampering now. Beautiful." She started making calls. "We'll wire you up, have teams positioned. If he admits to the location of the cash or attempts to bribe you, we add more charges." "I can't wear a wire," I said. "He'll check." "Button camera, then, and we'll have parabolic mics aimed at the building." Porter's expression hardened. "He violated the restraining order by contacting you. That's another felony." Pike spread out warehouse blueprints. "Abandoned structure in the flats. Multiple entry points, good sight lines from the adjacent building. We'll have units staged here, here, and here. What if he runs the Cuyahoga Rivers on one side, chain link on the other? He'd have to go through us." Maya helped me prepare the next morning, setting up new cloud backup systems. "Every word, every frame will upload in real time," she said. "Even if something happens to the physical devices." "Nothing's going to happen." "Riley, he cracked your ribs 4 days ago." "And gave us everything we needed." I attached the button camera to my jacket. "Now we finish it." The text from Derek came at noon. 8 p.m., Dock Street Warehouse. "Come alone or the remaining cash disappears forever." Porter read it over my shoulder. Remaining cash, he's admitting there's more to recover. Keep him talking about amounts, locations. Mom hugged me before I left. Your father would be proud, she whispered. Using his money to catch a thief, it's poetic justice. As I drove toward the flats, Pike's voice came through my earpiece. Teams in position. We've got eyes on all exits. The moment he incriminates himself further, or makes any threatening move, we converge. The warehouse loomed ahead, its broken windows reflecting the late afternoon sun. Derek's truck was already there, parked carelessly across 2 spaces. Recording active, Maya confirmed through the earpiece. Cloud sync engaged. Go get him. The Cuyahoga Flats stretched out like a rust-eaten skeleton of Cleveland's industrial past. The warehouse Derek chose squatted on the river's edge, its corrugated walls bleeding orange in the dying light. Rain started as I parked, droplets hitting the windshield like warnings. Target acquired. Pike's voice crackled through my earpiece. He's inside, north corner. We've got thermal imaging he's alone. I pushed through the broken door at 8:05 p.m. Derek stood near a support beam, a tool bag at his feet that seemed too heavy for hardware. Cash, heavy. You came, he said. Smart girl. Fighting me would have destroyed your mother. You already destroyed her. He laughed, the sound echoing off metal walls. I gave her 5 good years. That's worth something. The button camera caught everything: his confident stance, the bag he kept touching with his foot, the way he'd positioned himself near an exit. How much is in the bag, Derek? Enough. Your share could be $40,000. Cash, no taxes, no questions. From the $250,000 you stole, borrowed. Your mother would have given it to me eventually. He kicked the bag. Half the house value should be mine anyway. 5 years of repairs, improvements. This money's just early compensation. Maya whispered through my earpiece. Perfect admission. Keep going. You made her practice signatures, I said, stepping closer. The parabolic mics would catch every word. 3 sessions. She never even remembered them afterward. Ambien's beautiful that way. He pulled out a stack of bills, fanned them. 40,000. Riley. Take it and forget everything. Where's the rest? Safe. Distributed across places the IRS will never find. His ego was rolling now. Tool sheds, storage units, my brother's cabin near Mentor. 53 withdrawals, 9,500 each. You do the math. 503,500 total withdrawn. Good girl. Always quick with numbers. He stepped forward. But you only reported 250 to the cops. The rest already gone. Unless you want your cut. Pike's voice. He just confessed to the full amount. Team's ready. Derek continued, oblivious. I told your mother I'd make the trust last longer. Invest it smart. She signed 3 times before she got it right. Derek, my hand's tired. Sign it again. Ellen. So compliant when she's medicated. You drugged her. I gave her prescribed medication. Not my fault she's suggestible on it. A boat horn echoed from the river. Derek glanced toward the sound, then froze. Through the broken windows, blue and red lights suddenly painted the walls. You fucking bitch, he snarled. I'm a fraud analyst, I said. Did you really think I'd come alone? He grabbed the bag, sprinted toward the loading dock. I heard Pikes shout, moving south exit. Derek burst through the door, saw uniforms converging. He spun, vaulted the safety rail, and dropped 15 feet to the gravel beach below. The bag split on impact. Hundreds of bills exploding into the rain-heavy wind. Through my camera, I watched him scramble for the money, mud coating his clothes, bills sticking to his face. The tactical team descended the embankment, flashlights creating harsh shadows. Derek Cole, you're under arrest for aggravated theft, forgery, money laundering. Pike's voice carried over the rain. Derek tried to run along the riverbank, still clutching handfuls of cash. His foot caught on driftwood. He went down hard, money scattering across the wet stones. When the officers reached him, he was on his knees, desperately scraping bills from puddles. That's mine, he screamed. I earned it. 5 years of her crying, her weakness. The cuffs clicked shut. Money floated on the wind. Some bills reaching the river. Derek's fortune literally washing away. Pike climbed back to the warehouse, evidence bags heavy with recovered cash. Outstanding performance, he said. We got everything full confession, witness tampering, admission to drugging your mother. Through the doorway, I watched Derek being loaded into the patrol car, his muddy clothes dripping, still ranting about what he was owed. The Cuyahoga County Courthouse's criminal division felt like entering a machine designed to process human failure. Courtroom 18B was packed. Financial crimes rarely drew crowds, but a contractor stealing from his partner's trust fund had made the news. Ada Porter arranged her evidence like weapons on the prosecution table. We'll present chronologically, she told me. Build the narrative until the jury can't see anything but guilt. Derek entered in a suit that couldn't hide the jail pallor he'd developed over 3 months of pretrial detention. His lawyer, a public defender named Marsh who looked overwhelmed, whispered urgently in his ear. The state calls Riley Hart. I walked to the witness stand, past Mom in the second row, her hands folded tight. The button camera footage played on screens, Derek forcing her to practice signatures, his hand covering hers. Can you identify what we're seeing? Porter asked. My stepfather directing my mother to forge signatures. The timestamp shows 11:18 Mem. You can see her trying to pull away at minute 12. The audio came next. Derek's voice filled the courtroom. I took that money because you owe me. Several jurors winced at the sound of his boot hitting my ribs. What happened after this assault? I had 2 cracked ribs, bruised trachea. He dropped receipts showing structured withdrawals, $9,500 each, designed to avoid federal reporting requirements. Marsh tried to object. Speculation about intent, overruled. Judge Harrison said, the defendant's own words establish intent. Porter presented the financial trail next, charts showing money flowing from trust to shell company to cash withdrawals. The camera footage from banks, Derek at different branches, always under the reporting limit. The state calls Ellen Hart. Mom took the stand like she was walking to an execution, but when Porter asked about the signature sessions, her voice grew steady. He'd bring papers late at night, after I'd taken Ambien, said it was for insurance updates. I'd wake up not remembering. She looked directly at Derek. He'd squeeze my wrist when I hesitated. Not enough to break bones, just enough to remind me he could. The domestic violence expert testified next, explaining coercive control, financial abuse patterns. Isolation of financial assets is a classic control mechanism. The victim becomes dependent, unable to leave. Marsh's defense was thin. Derek was entitled to compensation for home improvements. The signatures were legitimate, just poorly timed. The assault was unfortunate but unrelated to the theft charges. Then, Porter played the warehouse confession. Derek's voice boomed. 53 withdrawals, $9,500 each. Tool sheds, storage units, my brother's cabin. She signed 3 times before she got it right. A juror in the front row shook her head. The state calls Detective Jonah Pike. Pike detailed the arrest, the money scattered across the riverside. Derek's screaming about being owed for 5 years of her weakness. We recovered approximately $170,000 in cash from various locations he'd identified. The remaining funds are still missing. Marsh made a desperate play. My client was promised compensation for years of work. Objection, Porter said. No evidence of any such agreement exists. Sustained. Derek took the stand against Marsh's advice. His story unraveled within minutes. You notarized your own forgery, Porter asked. It wasn't forgery. Ellen authorized it. At 11:43 p.m., she has insomnia. While on Ambien, she was lucid. Porter played the audio of him saying, Ambien's beautiful that way. She never even remembered. Derek's face went red. That was taken out of context. The context of you assaulting Ms. Hart while admitting to the theft. I was upset. People say things. Did you say I told your mother I'd make the trust last longer, and she signed 3 times before she got it right? Silence. Answer the question, Mr. Cole. Yes. The jury deliberated for 49 minutes. Mom gripped my hand as the foreman stood. On the count of aggravated theft in the first degree, guilty. Forgery in the first degree, guilty. Money laundering, guilty. Structured transactions to avoid reporting, guilty. Assault in the second degree, guilty. Witness tampering, guilty. Derek's mouth opened, but no sound came. Marsh requested bail pending sentencing. Denied, Judge Harrison said. The defendant is remanded to custody immediately. The sentencing arrived 3 weeks later, February in Cleveland, the kind of cold that makes courthouses feel like morgues. Derek stood in orange jumpsuit now, the contractor's swagger completely gone. Judge Harrison didn't look up from her papers. Mr. Cole, you systematically defrauded a trust fund established for a child who lost her father. You manipulated a grieving widow, isolated her financially, and when confronted, you resorted to violence. Derek's hands shook as she continued. Aggravated theft of $250,000, 8 years, forgery 3 years, money laundering through structured transactions 5 years, assault 2 years, witness tampering 3 years. She finally looked at him. Sentences to run consecutively. 21 years total incarceration. The gavel came down like a coffin nail. Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution of $250,000 plus interest, calculated at 7% annually from the date of theft. All recovered assets will be liquidated. A permanent restraining order is granted protecting both victims. Derek turned to look at us as the bailiffs approached. His mouth formed words, maybe a curse, maybe a plea. But I'd stopped caring what Derek Cole had to say. They cuffed him, the metal clicking with beautiful finality. As they led him past our row, he stumbled, caught himself, kept walking. The man who'd stolen with signatures and fists was going away, defeated by spreadsheets and data uploads. Outside the courthouse, Mom breathed free air for the first time in 5 years. It's over, she whispered. The criminal part, I corrected. Civil suits come next. We'll take his contracting equipment, his truck, everything. Porter met us on the courthouse steps. We recovered another $40,000 from his brother's cabin. The state will ensure full restitution, even if it takes years of prison wages. That evening, Maya came over with wine. We sat in my apartment, the same room where Derek had cracked my ribs, now reclaimed as mine. You know what's beautiful, Maya said, pulling up the cloud storage on her laptop. Every word he said is still here. Time-stamped, authenticated, locked in silicon forever. Mom raised her glass. To data. To evidence, I countered. We drank to the new world, where bruises could be photographed, threats could be recorded, and stolen money left digital footprints. Derek had understood the old violence fists and intimidation. He never understood that in the age of clouds and cameras. Every crime creates its own prosecution. The trust fund was restored within 6 months. Mom started therapy, learning to recognize the control patterns she'd missed. I kept working at Harborline, but now I specialized in domestic financial abuse cases, helping people build evidence chains that would stand in court. Sometimes I'd check the prison database. Derek Cole, scheduled release March 2046. He'd be 72, assuming good behavior he'd never demonstrated in his life. The last time I saw him was in the evidence video, on his knees in the mud, grabbing at floating money while rain washed his theft into Lake Erie. That image lived in my phone, in the cloud, in the court records permanent as his conviction. He'd beaten me with his boots, stolen with forged signatures, controlled with calculated cruelty. But I'd beaten him with uploaded audio, GPS pins, and structured query language. The ribs healed in 6 weeks. His sentence would last 2 decades. In the end, it wasn't revenge that satisfied me most. It was the precision of it, every crime documented, every dollar traced, every word preserved in silicon clarity. Derek Cole thought he'd stolen a fortune. Instead, he'd authored his own conviction. one recorded word at a time. The money came from my father's death, built a trust for my future, got stolen by a predator, and ultimately served its purpose protecting his family. Even from beyond, Dad had given me the tools to fight back. The money was just bait. The real weapon was the data, and Derek never saw it coming. Thank you for listening to my story. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your experiences matter, and together we can shine a light on these hidden crimes that happen every day in families across America.